The spring air in suburban Chicago carried the sweet scent of blooming tulips as Sofia Martinez pulled into her mother's driveway. The two-story colonial house, with its white picket fence and carefully maintained garden, looked exactly as it had for the past 30 years. Her hands trembled slightly as she turned off the engine, steadying herself for another family gathering. Just a few hours, she whispered, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. At 35, Sofia had learned to wear her exhaustion well, concealer under tired eyes, a practiced smile that never quite reached them. Through the kitchen window, she could see her mother, Elena, moving about with purpose, her silver hair pinned back as she prepared the traditional Easter feast. Sofia grabbed the homemade flan from the passenger seat, the same recipe her grandmother had taught her, the one her brother Leandro always claimed was too sweet. The front door opened before she could knock. Mia, Elena's face lit up, pulling Sofia into a warm embrace that smelled of vanilla and cinnamon. "You're early. I thought you might need help setting up," Sofia said, following her mother inside. The dining room table was already dressed in Elena's best linen, pastel eggs nestled in crystal bowls, and fresh lilies adorning the centerpiece. "Your brother called," Elena said, turning back to the kitchen. "He'll be here at noon with Victoria and the kids." Sofia nodded, already calculating. Leandro was always precisely on time, never early enough to help, never late enough to miss the meal. She rolled up her sleeves and joined her mother in the kitchen, falling into their familiar rhythm of preparation. "How's the job search going?" Elena asked gently, passing Sofia a stack of plates. "I have an interview next week," Sofia replied, not mentioning it was her 15th in 3 months. "The nonprofit downtown, they need a grant writer." Elena squeezed her shoulder. "You'll find something soon. You always land on your feet." As Sofia arranged the deviled eggs, she caught sight of her mother's trembling hands while slicing the ham. "Mom, let me do that. You sit." "I'm fine," Elena insisted, but Sofia had already taken the knife. "When was your last doctor's appointment?" Sofia asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, you know how it is. These old bones just need rest." Elena waved dismissively, but Sofia noticed how she gripped the counter for support. The doorbell rang at exactly noon. Through the window, Sofia watched her brother's Mercedes SUV gleaming in the driveway. Leandro entered like he always did, commanding the space, his designer polo shirt perfectly pressed, his wife Victoria Air kissing Elena while their twin boys, Marcus and Miguel, ran straight for the Easter baskets. "Smells amazing, Ma," Leandro boomed, settling into what had always been their father's chair at the head of the table. "Though I told Victoria we should have just catered from that new place downtown. Save you the trouble." Sofia bit her tongue, continuing to ferry dishes from the kitchen as Victoria complained about their country club's Easter brunch being fully booked. Neither offered to help. As the family gathered around the table, Elena said grace, her voice carrying the weight of tradition and memory. Sofia noticed her mother's eyes linger on the empty chair where their father used to sit, 5 years gone, but still present in every family gathering. The meal began with comfortable chatter, the twins' soccer season, Victoria's latest real estate conquests, Leandro's promotion to senior partner. Sofia listened, contributing when asked, content to let the familiar rhythm wash over her. "Remember when we used to hunt for eggs in the backyard?" Sofia ventured, catching her nephew's attention. "Your dad once climbed the oak tree to hide one. Took us hours to find it." "That's because I was smart," Leandro laughed, reaching for another serving of ham. "Always knew how to get ahead." "Right, Ma," Elena smiled tightly. "You were both clever in different ways." "Yeah, but let's be honest," Leandro continued, his voice taking on that edge Sofia knew too well. "I was the one who actually did something with it. Stanford MBA, corner office, house in Lincoln Park. Double quotes Leandro. Victoria touched his arm lightly, sensing the shift, but he was already rolling, wine loosening his tongue. I'm just saying, some of us were built for success." Dad always said I reminded him of himself, the one who'd carry on the family legacy. Sofia focused on cutting her ham into smaller pieces, each slice precise and deliberate. This was the dance they performed for years. Leandro's casual cruelty, her practiced silence, their mother's diplomatic interventions. Your sister has her own successes, Elena said quietly. Sure, Leandro waved his fork dismissively, teaching at that community center. Living in that studio apartment, very noble. I was laid off from the museum 6 months ago, Sophia said evenly. The funding, right. There's always something. Leandro poured himself another glass of wine. This is why Dad left me in charge of the family finances. Someone has to think practically. The air grew thick with unspoken tensions. Victoria busied herself with helping the boys color their Easter eggs. Elena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Sophia stood. I'll get the dessert. In the kitchen, she gripped the counter, breathing deeply. Through the window, she could see the garden she'd helped her mother plant last spring. The roses beginning to bud. She thought of all the Sundays she'd spent here while Leandro was too busy, all the doctor's appointments she'd driven to while he sent gift cards, all the nights she'd stayed when Elena couldn't sleep after Dad's death. Need help? Elena appeared beside her, placing a gentle hand on her back. I'm fine, Mom. No, Elena said firmly. You're not, and I'm tired of pretending not to notice. Before Sophia could respond, Leandro's voice carried from the dining room. You know, when this place gets to be too much for Mom, Victoria's been looking at some excellent senior communities, very upscale. They have waiting lists, but I have connections. Sophia and Elena exchanged glances. We should get back, Sophia said, lifting the flan. Wait. Elena opened a kitchen drawer, pulling out a manila envelope. She tucked it under the bread basket on the serving tray. It's time. Mom, what a trust me. Mia, some things need to be said. They returned to find Leandro regaling the table with stories of his latest court victory, gesturing broadly with his wine glass. Victoria was scrolling through her phone while the boys flicked peas at each other. As Sophia set down the dessert, Leandro's monologue reached its crescendo. The thing about success is knowing your worth, taking what's yours. That's what Dad taught me. That's why he made sure I'd be set to handle everything when the time came. He paused, looking around the table with satisfaction. The house, the property upstate, even Grandma's jewelry collection. Someone has to be the responsible one. No offense, Soph, but we both know you're not exactly the estate planning type. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Sophia felt the familiar burn of humiliation creeping up her neck. She opened her mouth, then closed it, the response dying on her lips as it had 100 times before. That's when Elena stood up. The movement was deliberate, commanding attention in a way that reminded everyone she had once been a force in Chicago's nonprofit sector before retirement. She reached under the bread basket, pulling out the manila envelope. Since you brought up the subject, Elena said, her voice carrying a strength Sophia hadn't heard in years. I think it's time everyone knew the truth. Leandro's smile faltered. Ma, what are you talking about? The will, Mio. The real one. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Victoria looked up from her phone. The twins stopped fidgeting. Elena held the envelope like a weapon, her eyes meeting each family member's in turn before settling on her son. You want to talk about inheritance? Then let's talk about what inheritance really means. Chapter 2. The unraveling narrative structure for dramatic family inheritance story 3. This is a good start. I've established the setting in Chicago, introduced the characters with realistic dynamics, and created tension that leads naturally to the revelation. Chapter 1 ends on a cliffhanger with Elena about to reveal the will. For Chapter 2, I'll focus on the revelation of the will's contents, Leandro's reaction, and attempted manipulation flashbacks that show why Elena made this decision, building toward another dramatic moment. I'll continue maintaining the realistic, culturally grounded approach with authentic dialogue and emotions. The manila envelope made a soft sound as Elena placed it on the table, her weathered hands steady despite the tremor Sophia had noticed earlier. The afternoon sun slanted through the dining room windows, casting long shadows across the Easter table's remnants. Ma, this is hardly the time, Leandro started, his voice carrying a warning edge. When would be the time? Mio, Elena interrupted, her accent thickening as it always did when emotion ran high. When I'm gone, when it's too late for truth. Victoria gathered the twins closer, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Boys, why don't you go play in the yard? But Mom, Marcus protested. Now, the sharpness in Victoria's voice sent them scurrying. Leandro's face had taken on the courtroom expression Sophia knew well, calculating, already formulating arguments. Whatever this is about, we can discuss it privately. No need for dramatics. Dramatics. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. 38 years of keeping peace, of swallowing words, of watching. You think this is dramatics? She opened the envelope with deliberate care, unfolding the documents inside. 6 months ago, I updated my will. Legally, with witnesses, with sound mind, without consulting me. Leandro's voice rose. I have power of attorney, for medical decisions only. Elena corrected. Something you'd know if you'd read the paperwork instead of just filing it away. Sophia found herself gripping the edge of the table. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Elena's eyes softened as they met her daughter's. I've been silent too long, watching you shrink yourself to avoid his shadow. She cleared her throat, reading from the document, to my daughter, Sophia Elena Martinez. I leave the family home, its contents, and the rental property in Evanston. The combined value of these assets represents approximately 70% of my estate. The words landed like stones in still water. Leandro's wine glass hit the table harder than necessary. Additionally, Elena continued, Sophia will receive my mother's jewelry collection, the family photographs and heirlooms, and the remainder of my savings after specific charitable donations. This is insane. Leandro was on his feet now, lawyer mode fully engaged. She's clearly been manipulated. Sophia, what did you? Sit down. Elena's voice cut through his building tirade. I'm not finished. Reluctantly, Leandro sank back into his chair, his face flushed with more than wine. To my son, Leandro Miguel Martinez, I leave $25,000 and your father's watch collection. The remaining assets will be distributed to the Latino Community Foundation and the Women's Shelter where I volunteered. $25,000. Leandro's voice cracked. That's nothing. The house alone is worth. I know exactly what it's worth, Elena said quietly. I know what everything is worth. She set down the papers, her gaze traveling between her children. Do you want to know why? Leandro, do you really want to know? Because she poisoned you against me, he spat, pointing at Sophia, playing the martyr. Always here, always. She was here. Elena's voice broke slightly. That's exactly right. She was here. The room seemed to contract around them. Victoria placed a restraining hand on Leandro's arm, but he shook it off. I have a business to run. Responsibilities. I can't drop everything. No, you couldn't drop anything. Elena stood slowly, gripping the table for support. Not for my chemotherapy appointments, not for your father's funeral planning, not even for Sunday dinners unless they fit your schedule. I sent money. Money. Elena laughed bitterly. Yes, you sent checks. Sophia sent her life. Mom, please. Sophia interjected, uncomfortable with the spotlight. This isn't necessary, isn't it? Elena turned to her. When your father died, who slept on the couch for 3 months because I couldn't bear the empty house when I fell last winter, who took unpaid leave to help me recover when the basement flooded, who spent her weekends helping me salvage 60 years of memories. Each question hung in the air, unanswered because everyone knew the truth. That's not ... that's different, Leandro stammered. I offered to hire help. I didn't need hired help. I needed my son. Elena's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But you'd already decided what kind of help was worth your time. She moved around the table, stopping behind Sophia's chair. Do you know why your sister lives in that studio apartment, you mock? Because she gave up the museum promotion that would have taken her to New York. Gave it up without telling anyone, without complaint, because she knew I needed her here. Sophia's eyes burned with unshed hairs. Mom, she thinks I didn't know, Elena continued, her hand resting on Sophia's shoulder. But mothers see everything. We just don't always speak. Leandro's face had progressed from red to purple. This is emotional manipulation. I'll contest this. No judge will uphold. Try it. Elena's spine straightened, and for a moment, Sophia saw the woman who had built a career fighting for immigrant rights. I've been very careful. Dr. Patterson provided cognitive evaluations. Attorney Chen oversaw every detail. I even had sessions with a therapist to document my decision-making process. You planned this, Leandro accused. This whole thing, this ambush, I planned for truth, Elena corrected. Something that's been missing from this table for too long. Victoria finally spoke, her voice carefully modulated. Elena, surely there's room for discussion. The boys, their college funds, are already provided for, Elena said. Separate educational trusts, established last year. I'm not punishing my grandchildren for their father's choices. Leandro slammed his palm on the table, making the china rattle. My choice to be successful. My choice to build something. Your choice to build walls, Elena said sadly. Your choice to measure love in dollars and square footage instead of presence and time. She returned to her seat, suddenly looking every one of her 73 years. I won't live forever. Mio, the doctors ... Well, that's a conversation for another day. But I won't leave this world with lies between us. What doctors? Sophia's voice was sharp with concern. Mom, what haven't you told me? Elena waved her hand. Later, Mia. One truth at a time. Leandro stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood. This isn't over. You're making a mistake, and when you realize it, when she disappoints you like she disappoints everyone. Enough. Elena's voice carried final authority. You want to know the moment I decided. It wasn't one moment, it was 1,000 tiny ones. Every holiday you arrived late and left early. Every time you talked over your sister's achievements. Every Sunday Sophia came alone while you sent excuses. She pulled out a small notebook from her cardigan pocket, pages worn from handling. I started writing them down. 3 years of moments. Would you like to hear them? Leandro's jaw worked soundlessly. Victoria was already gathering her purse, reading the room with the instincts of a successful realtor. I think we should go, Victoria said quietly. The boys need to get home. Of course you're leaving, Elena said, not unkindly. It's what you do when things get uncomfortable. Run to your beautiful house, your perfect life, your carefully controlled world. She opened the notebook, running her finger down a page. March 15th, last year, Sophia's birthday. She spent it here, helping me sort through your father's things. You sent a text, not even a call. Mom, stop, Sophia pleaded. Please. But Elena continued, her voice steady. June 2nd, the anniversary of your father's death. Sophia and I visited the grave, planted new flowers. You were in Cabo. Important client meeting. You said, each date was a small cut, death by 1,000 paper cuts of absence. September 18th, I fell in the shower. Sophia left her job interview, the one for the position she'd wanted for years, to take me to the emergency room. You sent flowers 2 days later. I didn't know Leandro started. Because you didn't ask. You never ask. Elena closed the notebook. Your sister has been paying my property taxes for 2 years. Did you know that? No. Because you assumed I had it handled? She has been drowning. And you never noticed, because you were too busy floating. The silence that followed was deafening. Through the window, they could hear the twins playing, their laughter a stark contrast to the weight inside. I need some air, Leandro announced, heading for the door. Running again, Elena observed. Your father's son after all. That stopped him. He turned, his face a mask of hurt and rage. Don't you dare. Your father was a good man, Elena said evenly, but he ran from difficult emotions too. Taught you that success meant never showing weakness, never admitting need. I let him. That was my mistake. She looked at Sophia then, her expression softening. I won't make it with your children. Leandro left without another word, the front door closing with a finality that echoed through the house. Victoria hesitated, torn between loyalty and discomfort. I should ... the boys ... She gestured vaguely toward the yard. Take some leftovers, Elena said, reverting to hostess mode. For the boys, as Victoria escaped to the kitchen. Elena and Sophia sat in the ruins of Easter dinner. The flame remained untouched, its caramel surface reflecting the late afternoon light like amber. You didn't have to do that, Sophia whispered. Yes, I did. Elena reached across the table, taking her daughter's hand. I've watched you make yourself small for too long, accepting crumbs when you deserve the feast. He's going to hate me. He already resented you, Elena said gently, for being the one who stayed, for being the mirror that showed him what he chose not to be. This just makes it visible. Through the window, they watched Victoria corral the boys toward the car. Leandro was already in the driver's seat, his silhouette rigid with anger. There's something else, Elena said, squeezing Sophia's hand. The doctors. I have maybe a year. Maybe less. The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. What? When? Why didn't you? Because I needed to do this first. Needed to make things right while I still could. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I won't have you spending the time I have left fighting over what comes after. Mom, the cancer's back. Mia. Everywhere this time, I've made my peace with it. But I couldn't make peace with leaving you unprotected. Sophia moved around the table, kneeling beside her mother's chair, burying her face in Elena's lap like she had as a child. Elena stroked her hair, humming softly. He'll come around, Elena murmured. Or he won't, but either way, you'll be okay. The house is yours, the life you've put on hold. It's time to live it. Outside, the Mercedes pulled away, tires crunching on gravel. Inside, mother and daughter held each other as shadows lengthened and the untouched Easter feast grew cold between them. Chapter 3. The Reckoning mapped narrative arc, focusing on character growth and family dynamics. Discrete progression so far. Chapter 2 revealed the will, exposed the family dynamics, and added the revelation about Elena's illness. For Chapter 3, I'll focus on the aftermath of the revelation, Leandro's attempts to fight back, Sophia finding her voice and strength, family members choosing sides, building toward illusion while maintaining realism. I'll show character growth and the realistic obstacles they face. 2 weeks after Easter, Sophia stood in the doorway of what had been her childhood bedroom, now her mother's craft room. Morning light filtered through sheer curtains, illuminating boxes of photographs and half-finished quilts. Elena sat in her rocking chair, sorting through decades of memories with methodical care. You should be resting, Sophia said softly, carrying in a cup of tea. Rest is for the dead, Elena replied with dark humor. I'll have plenty of time for that soon enough, Mom. No sadness before noon. House rule, Elena accepted the tea gratefully, her hands steadier than they'd been in days. Besides, I have a visitor coming. Before Sophia could ask, the doorbell rang. Through the window, she spotted a familiar silver Lexus, not Leandro's Mercedes, but close enough to make her stomach tighten. I'll get it, Sophia said, but Elena was already rising. It's for me. Sophia followed her mother downstairs, surprised to find their Aunt Teresa at the door, Leandro's godmother and their father's sister. The woman who'd always slipped Leandro extra 20s at family gatherings while telling Sophia she was such a good helper. Elena. Teresa embraced her sister-in-law carefully, as if she might break. You look well. Lying is a sin, Teresa. Elena's smile took the sting from her words. Come in. Sophia was just making coffee. In the kitchen, Sophia watched the two women settle at the table, decades of history between them. Teresa's designer handbag looked out of place against the worn wooden surface where Sophia had done homework and shared countless meals. Leandro asked me to come, Teresa began without preamble. He's concerned about his inheritance or his mother. Elena's tone was mild, but Sophia heard the steel underneath. Teresa's face tightened. That's unfair. He's worried you're not thinking clearly. This sudden change, cutting him out. $75,000 is not cutting out, Elena interrupted. It's more than many children ever see. But the house, Elena, Miguel always said. Miguel is dead. The words fell flat and final. 5 years dead. And whatever he said or didn't say about the house died with him. Sophia poured coffee, her movements automatic as the conversation unfolded. She'd learned long ago that invisibility was sometimes the best defense in family conflicts. He can't even bring himself to visit, Teresa continued, stirring sugar into her cup with aggressive precision. Victoria says he hasn't slept, hasn't been eating. Guilt is a hungry beast, Elena observed. You're destroying this family. No. Elena's voice remained calm. I'm acknowledging what was already broken. Teresa turned to Sophia then. her expression shifting to something almost pitying. And you're okay with this, taking advantage of your mother's condition? The words hung in the air like a slap. Sophia felt the familiar urge to shrink, to apologize for existing, but something in her mother's steady gaze gave her strength. The only advantage I took, Sophia said quietly, was the chance to be here, to love her while I could. Love. Teresa's laugh was bitter. Is that what you call it? Hovering, waiting. Enough. Elena's hand hit the table with surprising force. You want to talk about waiting? Let's talk about who waited in hospital rooms, who waited for test results, who waited up when I couldn't sleep from the pain. She stood slowly, gripping the table's edge. Leandro had 38 years to show me who he was. Sophia had the same 38 years. They both showed me. I finally listened. Teresa gathered her purse, her exit as dramatic as her nephew's had been. This isn't over. He has lawyers. So do I, Elena said mildly. Good ones. Ones who specialize in elder law and estate planning. Funny how being involved in the nonprofit world for 40 years builds certain connections. After Teresa left, Sophia found her hands shaking as she loaded the dishwasher. It's going to get worse, isn't it? Probably. Elena returned to her seat, suddenly looking fragile again. But that's not your burden to carry. Of course it is. Sophia turned, leaning against the counter. It's always been my burden. Being the disappointing one. The one who stayed. The one who cared too much. Mia. No. Mom. Let me ... double quotes. Sophia took a breath, finding words she'd swallowed for years. Do you know what Leandro said to me at Dad's funeral? While you were accepting condolences, he pulled me aside and said, "Try not to embarrass the family with your emotions. Some of us have reputations to maintain." Elena's face crumpled. I didn't know, because I didn't tell you, because I never told you any of it. Sophia began pacing, energy crackling through her. The comments about my weight at every holiday, the jokes about my little jobs to his business friends, the way he'd introduce me as my sister, who's still figuring things out when I had a master's degree and a career I loved. Why didn't you? Because you loved him, Sophia said simply. Because he was your golden boy, and I was just ... Sophia. Reliable Sophia, quiet Sophia, Sophia who would understand, who would keep the peace, who would make it work. She laughed, but it came out cracked. Do you know I was offered a position at the Met? The actual Metropolitan Museum of Art, curator of Latin American collections. My dream job. Elena's hand went to her heart. When? 2 years ago. Right after Dad died. Sophia's voice dropped. The same week you had your first fall. I turned it down without telling anyone. Told myself it was temporary, that there would be other chances. Oh, Mia. But there weren't. Because once you start shrinking yourself, it becomes habit. Sophia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and Leandro knew. Somehow, he knew. Made a joke at Christmas about me being too good for New York anyway. Said it with that smile that meant he knew exactly what I'd given up and thought I was a fool for it. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a lawn mower. Elena rose carefully, crossing to her daughter. I failed you, she whispered, pulling Sophia into an embrace. I saw his brightness and missed your light. You didn't fail me. Sophia's voice was muffled against her mother's shoulder. You loved us both. It's not your fault. He weaponized it. They stood there, holding each other, until Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. 3 texts from Victoria. Apparently, Leandro's hired someone. Sherman and Associates, the estate lawyers. Sophia pulled back. They did the Delgado will contest last year. It was in the papers. Let him. Elena's jaw set with determination. I've been preparing for this longer than he knows. She moved to the built-in desk in the corner, pulling out a thick folder. Every receipt you kept from the bills you paid. Every medical form you filled out. Every day you took off work marked in my calendar. 3 years of documentation. Mom, Attorney Chen suggested it. Said if there was a contest, we'd need proof of involvement. Elena's smile was grim. Your brother likes paper trails. Let's see how he likes these. Over the next days, the family divided like a cell splitting. Elena's brothers sided with Leandro. Tradition demanded the son inherit, but their wives whispered support to Sophia at the grocery store. Cousins chose camps based on their own sibling resentments. The Latino Community Foundation, getting wind of their potential windfall, quietly offered Elena their legal support. Victoria tried to play peacemaker, showing up one evening with store-bought cookies and practiced concern. "This is killing him," she said, sitting rigidly on the couch while Sophia served tea neither of them wanted. "He's not sleeping. The boys keep asking why we don't visit Grandma anymore. He's welcome here," Sophia said carefully. "He's always been welcome. You know, it's not that simple." Victoria's manicured nails tapped against the china cup.